Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jerome. I'm really feeling very, very honored to be here today. I was getting a request from Matthias and Emanuele to do some different kind of keynote today. So I have to tell you, I'm really, really stressed, actually. I'm feeling like this right now. And when I started my career, as a resource business specialist at Holcim long time ago, I met a guy. He was absolutely fabulous, quite revolutionary guy, really working hard, very, very hard for resource efficiency, always pushing new projects. And I learned one big thing from this guy. He told me, you know what, watch out, because you might get what you are asking for. So that's what I'm actually feeling right now. I'm really stressed because I always wanted to actually marry, you know, my background as environmental engineer and as a musician and do something greater. And now I stand here in front of this crowd of very, very, very smart people, all excellent scientists, researchers, you know, all these kind of people. And I was like, okay, you know, what am I going to tell them they do not already know? You know, I don't know. So what I did was actually, I just went back and felt my body basically, and do what I can do in this kind of stage, is just play, you know, and realize that actually you are not your thoughts, but you know, you are your hands, you are your feet, you are your belly, you are, you know, basically. So if that's okay, that will be a kind of a strange, a bit out-of-the-box commencement speak, because I wrote the speak, but then I tossed it away. I was like, just go up there and be yourself. Okay, so this will be a kind of improvised commencement talk, if that's all right. Thank you. Have to go with the unexpected, so it was not turn on. So I'm already feeling much more relaxed now. So, I brought one secret for you today. You know what? You are alive. You know, you are alive. Have you ever, think about it? No, feel about it. I mean, the day you were born. Okay, I don't think I have to go through what it takes to be born. Probably everybody knows about that. But when you were born, okay, you actually already won the most amazing race that there will ever be. You are there, you are alive. You have a fingerprint that is unique in the whole universe. It has never existed before, and it will never exist after. So, I feel your mission, and I think your mission also in this conference, bring who you are to what you do. I think your mission is to actually go and improve on that specialness that you are. You are hand, you are feet, you are belly, your hands, your brain. You are not your thoughts. There will be a lot of thinking in this conference. There will be great thinking, I'm sure, but you are not your thoughts. You are. We live on a planet, you can see it here in the background. It's kind of amazing, no? It's turning like, I don't know, with how many kilometers an hour around the sun, like cruising like crazy, and you're sitting here and trying to like save the resource of this planet. Thank you for doing it. It's absolutely great. And think about just the mystery that actually you are alive. I think it's really important. And you will need to have a lot of good ideas, because the challenges nowadays in the world that we are facing, especially in today's political situation, I will not go in details about that, but you will need a lot of good ideas. So where do you pull ideas from? From my life as a musician, what I have learned is actually to go and create this process in reverse. Whenever I need an idea, I actually create that feeling, and then from that feeling, the idea emerges. So when you're feeling creative, try to take that feeling, put it in a data bank somewhere, and whenever you need an idea, you just go out there and it clips, it goes. And I think that is really something that can help. At least it has helped me, and going back to my body and going back to who we are and not identify to our thoughts. Very emotive stuff for me. So I was, when I was preparing for this, I wrote up a speech, first time in my life. And then when I tried to rehearse it, it was like 45 minutes. And they told me I have 8. And I was like, okay, no, I don't have time to write a short speech. So, the art of being concise. And what I wanted to talk to you about, I could stand here and talk for hours, but this is somehow different. I'm used to talking in front of people, I'm used to playing in front of people, but normally it's like 10 or 11 in the evening at festivals, and people go with beers and whatever. And probably you will not really remember what I told you. I mean, it's great if you remember what I told you, but what you will remember, certainly, is this strange guy with a hat that was standing there and playing flute at this conference you went. And the second thing you will remember is how it made you feel. You know, when I speak to people that listen to concerts I did, they actually remember the feeling. So I think, you know, always go back and connect to actually how you felt and bring what you are to what you do. I think that's a really thing. And what I can tell you, you know, is from what I learned. So it was about sustainability and music and how does it link together. And you know, I wrote up a lot of concepts and I did bubbles in my room and I was like, oh no, oh my God, what is this? But I think one thing that I learned from music, and I think that is really applicable to life, is that diversity, you know, diversity is the key to life. Diversity is the key to life, and the best bands I have ever played in is actually bands where all the instruments were different. You know, every instrument is different and everybody is bringing their knowledge and is bringing what they know and what they feel and what they learned and what is their cultural background and how they were educated to the table. You know, we will never find a band where there's like 7 bass players. I mean, I don't know many of them. So in music, actually we bless differences. We don't curse them, we bless them. I think that is a very nice takeaway for me. Another thing is in music, we co-construct, and I would highly, I'm looking for the right verb here. I would highly recommend is probably not the verb anyway, but there is one thing that I learned in theater improvisation is this concept of using yes and. Try to observe, I invite you during these 2 days, try to observe whenever you are in a workshop, in a session, in a plenum, in whatever, you know, someone says something and you go like, oh yes, but. Actually, what you mean is yes and. You know, co-construct. Someone is playing a groove, someone is playing something, and then you play with it and you play on top of it, and it's yes and. Try to just use yes and instead of yes but consciously and see what happens, okay? Last thing I learned from music that is applicable, I think, also in this context and in life is in music, you learn actually to listen. You learn to listen, and listen is a great skill. You know, make others sound great. Who is trying to shine constantly will not be enlightened. You know, try to bring what you are to what you do and try to make others feel great. Try to empower ideas of others. Try to co-construct with them. And one thing that you learn when you want to create new things, and I'm sure a lot of new things are going to be created, one thing is you need to create the void and you need to listen. And one thing that is really important to listen to is it's the silence. You know, sometimes there is nothing. And I think we need this void to actually go and create new things. One last thing. I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever thought about one day you are going to die? We are all going to die. When you die early, will you be dead longer? Probably not. And actually, you know, eternity, that is really the absurdum of life, of the illusion of time. It's actually eternity. And what everybody, we lose it, the connection to this eternity. Everybody who is keeping it are actually our children. So just go, and I invite you, keep your inner child and have some fun and enjoy yourself at this conference. Because one thing is, you can think about life in the sense of to be is to do, or to do is to be. What I would say is doobie doobie doo. Okay? So, and then I leave you the floor. When I was talking to my 7-year-old daughter, she was like, "Oh, Dad, you're stressed. You know, you should have some fun." So I brought this one. In the sense of, oh no, it's the wrong way round. So in the sense that you will remember this weird guy at this conference that was like doobie 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 doobie. And thank you for listening to me. It was a great honor to actually open this conference. I'm feeling a little bit less stressed now. There will be many, many things I could still talk about, but maybe I will cross one face or the other over Christmas, I was going to say, over Chapero. Thank you, Matthias, for the invitation, and thank you. Have a nice conference, and you are all human and alive. Bring what you are to what you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Jérôme. I have to add one thing with Jérôme. It's not just about our work and how we are and to feel ourselves, it's also about how we feel about others and how we develop partnerships and relationships. I actually met Jérôme 20 years ago. He was one of our first master students, and we sent him to South Africa, which also marked my start of this career, which led me to the World Resources Forum. So I think that's also important. It's all about collaboration, diversity, as you said, and also I like the intro with the music and your speech. You know, it's about joy. We're talking about a serious topic here. Strategies for fair and sustainable strategies, new resource strategies for a fair and sustainable future. So it's a serious topic. And I welcome you to this diversity and co-creation conference. I welcome all the speakers. I welcome the guests. I welcome everybody, ladies and gentlemen. With this, we open the conference. And I would like now to quickly lead over to one of our key partners who supported us through all the years since we exist. The World Resources Forum exists. That's the Swiss Federal Office for the Environment, and I would like to introduce our first welcome speech. That's from Felix Wertli. Felix Wertli is the Swiss Ambassador for the Environment and the head of International Affairs Division at the Swiss Federal Office for the Environment, BAFU, as we call them in Switzerland, or FOEN in English. Felix served previously as head of Global Affairs section at the Swiss Federal Office for the Environment, also as counselor for trade and development at the Permanent Mission of Switzerland to the World Trade Organization, and worked as program officer for Kenya and Haiti at Fasten Opfer Swiss Catholic Lenten Fund. So Felix, please come. You will bring a lot of international experience, and very happy to have you here as a welcome speech. Thank you.
Thank you much, Matthias. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues and friends. It's a great honor to open the World Resource Forum 2025. Switzerland is proud to host this event, offering a unique space for dialogue, collaboration, and action among stakeholders. I also warmly welcome you to Geneva, a global hub for international environmental governance. Here, international organizations such as UNEP, UNECE, WTO, along with major environmental conventions, missions, NGOs, and a vibrant scientific community come together to shape solutions to global challenges. And yes, Geneva is also a place for the recently held negotiation on the plastic treaty. I'm sure many of you followed quite closely those negotiations. We were not able to conclude those negotiations here in Geneva. The positions were too far apart. We had a group of countries, a larger group, that wanted a full life cycle approach, that wanted global and national measures, and another group of countries that focused more on downstream measures and wanted focus here only on national measures. But we all know plastic pollution will remain, and we have to find solutions, and we have to find effective international collaboration. I think it's always important, even we worked hard. I can see a few faces I recognize from those negotiations. They still look a bit pale because of the long nights that we had. But it's always good to also keep certain positive elements. And just showing that we had this process, that we have launched this process of negotiations on the plastics, I think 4 important positive key takeaways so far, even that we have not able to conclude in Geneva, are first of all, we were able to put plastic pollution in the spotlight. It's much more recognized than before. Second, science has worked hard over this process. We know much more about the problems, but also potential solutions. Third, business coalition, more than 400 businesses got engaged, have asked for global measures, have provided solutions. We know much more about the value chains and much more how regulation can support an effective implementation to get sustainable value chains. And last but not least, more than 120 countries are coming together that want effective regulations, an effective treaty. That is a good basis, those elements, for continuing the negotiations, and I'm sure we'll be able to find a solution while it takes a bit more time. But we know plastic is not the only field we need transformation. The clean energy transition, infrastructure development, digitalization, artificial intelligence are rapidly reshaping our economies and societies. This transformation brings a surge in demand for minerals, demand that could quadruple by 2040. Natural resources are the backbone of our modern lives. Yet, the way we use them is one of the key drivers of the triple planetary crisis: climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. At the same time, governance of these resources is fragmented. We have more than 150 sustainability initiatives and standards addressing mineral-related challenges, but their lack of coherence, interoperability, and ambition weakens our ability to ensure transparent, traceable, and sustainable supply chains. In recent years, global focus has shifted towards supply security. This is understandable given concentrated supply chains and geopolitical tensions. But we must not see supply security and environmental protection as opposing goals. In fact, they go hand in hand. Environmental policies, circular economy approaches are essential parts of the solution. The global rush to secure resources also brings new risk of environmental rollback and mining in ecologically sensitive areas. This deepens social tensions among communities affected by extractions. These concerns are especially acute in the debate over deep-sea mining. Switzerland upholds a precautionary approach. No exploitation should proceed until environmental risks are thoroughly understood and we can protect the environment with enforceable rules. The deep sea is one of the planet's last frontiers. It holds thousands of unknown and unique species and genetic resources that support innovation in health, nutrition, and climate action. We cannot afford irreversible harm in the name of short-term gains. The scale and urgency of these challenges call for coordinated global action. Governments, industry leaders, standard setters, multilateral organizations, civil society must work together to build supply chains rooted in sustainability. And Switzerland is ready to play its part. We are a global trading hub and a home to many multinational companies. And we are committed to promoting responsible business practices and the sustainable management of natural resources, both nationally and internationally. And let me highlight 4 priority actions for our collective effort. First, science must guide us. Sound policies must be grounded in robust scientific evidence. I would like here specifically to mention the work of the International Resource Panel. Second, we need better alignment of existing standards, certification schemes, and due diligence frameworks with global environmental goals. Third, innovation and circular economy solutions must be harnessed. Remining tailings hold very large untapped potentials. Blockchain and artificial intelligence can enhance transparency, traceability, and accountability. And fourth, we should leverage the growing demand from investors and consumers for strong environmental, social, and governance standards. This creates a positive feedback loop that supports sustainable production. And this forum comes at a pivotal time. Last year, the UN Secretary General's panel on critical energy transition minerals outlined a set of principles and recommendations for a just, equitable, and sustainable management of minerals. A few weeks ago, the UN released a guidance for action that identifies policies and practices that can implement these principles and recommendations. In December, the UN Environmental Assembly, UNEA, will provide a platform to set the global environmental agenda and strengthen coherent policy responses. UNEA will be the opportunity to create a network of willing actors to continue development of effective and harmonized standards. Let the outcome of this forum contribute meaningfully to these processes by forging coherence and ambitious strategies. We must rethink how we manage resources, ensuring responsible mineral governance, resilient infrastructure, and the rapid shift to sustainable production and consumption. No country, company, or institution can meet these challenges alone. Switzerland stands ready to convene partners, foster collaboration, and contribute solutions here in Geneva and around the world. The decisions we make today will determine the resilience, fairness, and sustainability of our shared future. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring forum.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you very much, and also thank you very much again, BAFU, for their continuous support to our organization. Now, we always get a lot of support of UN organizations. We are very happy that we always have a lot of presence of UN organizations, and I'm happy to introduce to you Tatiana Molcean of the Republic of Moldova. She's Under-Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of UNECE. Mrs. Molcean brings to the position 20 years of experience in the public sector with extensive international cooperation and development experience, and in-depth knowledge and expertise across the entire UNECE membership. She served previously as the permanent representative of the Republic of Moldova to the United Nations Office, World Trade Organizations, and other international organizations. We're very happy to have you here. Please, for your high-level speech.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. Let me start first by expressing my gratitude to the organizers for not only for putting such an important topic on the agenda, but also to guiding us through and reminding through the opening, but really living up to what we are preaching, including from the badge, how we stepped into this room, how important is that we act on what we speak, so we don't hold only talks, and the great intro that made us reflect a little bit and think what we really need to say in order to act and how we better integrate and cooperate with each other. So thank you so much for bringing us all together here. And I'm really pleased to represent UNECE as the head of UNECE, as the Executive Secretary of UNECE, and speak about the work that we are doing in this particular area. And I would like to focus on some very practical tools, because one of the key aspects that we should look at is how different areas integrate and make things work in practice, because we need, and we've been talking about what us, UN, but also countries, people have to do to really reinforce this management of resources to address this planetary crisis. We call it the triple planetary crisis, and to improve, yes, the environment, but also the social equality and economic development. And when I will speak about the instruments, very concrete ones that we have at UNEC, you'll see that this is exactly how we are working on it. So both on the environmental side, the economic side, but also the social one. And first and foremost, I would like to speak about one very practical tool, which is a result of our truly collaborative and transformative work. And it's the resource management tool that is the United Nations Framework Classification for Resources and the United Nations Resource Management Systems. And these have been developed for resource efficiency and sufficiency and supporting a circular economy. And they are the core of the UN guidance for action on critical energy transition minerals, and which is a key document issued by the UN Secretary-General Work Group on transforming the extractive industries for sustainable development. And earlier the Ambassador Felix mentioned about the work that has been carried on in this area. And what is critical is that these kind of tools have been upscaled, and the UNFC is now included in the EU Critical Raw Materials Act that has entered into force last year, and they are both the UNFC and UNRMS are the core of the African Minerals and Energy Reporting Classification and the Pan-African Resource Reporting Code. Why I'm speaking about this tools? Because this is the practicality. I'm trying to look more into the tools and what we can do on the ground. And they have enabled transparent and equitable mineral reporting for the African continent. We have also seen the establishment of a number of international centers of excellence on sustainable resource management to build capacity around the world on these tools. This is another indicator of how we can help making this change. Many of the initiatives that are within UNEC are innovative for the region, but also beyond. I would like to exemplify the work of our task force on digitalization in energy, which is a joint platform of experts on energy efficiency and cleaner electricity systems. And across the entire value chain, the industry is experiencing a twin transition, digital and environmental. This is very important, because digitalization is transforming operations, infrastructure management, and decision-making by having enhanced data collection, analytics, and automation. But besides improving performance, digital technologies offer something more important. They have this possibility to, and we have learned, all of us, this very well, it offers the tools for understanding and managing the social, technical, and socio-economic complexities of the twin transition. This task force on digitalization proposes policy recommendations to address existing barriers and support the adoption of digital technologies to advance such transition. But with that being said, securing resources of critical minerals and scaling up really renewable and digital technologies for clean energy or climate mitigation must not come at a cost for worker safety, for community health, or, what is very important, environment integrity. That is why, for example, the UNEC Industrial Accidents Convention provides a legal framework to help governments manage related environment and industrial risks and ensure that this transition, this work is really safe and credible. UNEC, we support countries by aligning national policies and industry practices with this convention, with the Industrial Accidents Conventions, in preventing and also preparing for disaster, harmonize standards, but also enhance cross-border cooperation and cross-sectoral coordination. But ultimately, it also helps to build more resilient supply chains. Another important aspect which we work on, including at UNEC with many colleagues from across the system, with many of you here in the room, is the forestry side. In our region, in UNEC region, that is covered by 56 members, forests represent 1/3 of the land area, and they represent more than 40% of the world's total forests. And together with the member states, we carefully monitor the sustainable use of forests, finding really innovative solutions for maximizing their contribution to a low-carbon circular bioeconomy. Dear colleagues, I think many of the work that we are doing, there are many more tools and some of them, and the work, some more new developments on which we are working, including on some negotiations that recently were happening here in Geneva. I have full confidence that we will succeed still in those. Are important, but more important is the fact that we ensure transparency, because resource challenges really demand transparency. We have to look at the supply chains, and they are central really to both clean energy transition and sustainable consumption. And I spoke earlier, about the different critical minerals, copper or other critical minerals, but also, for example, for agricultural resources. We need this transparency. Still, supply chains are amongst the most opaque, with risk of human rights abuses, environmental harm, and conflict finances. This year, in July, UNEC member states adopted a recommendation, Transparency at Scale. It's focusing exactly on that. And we are currently developing also the transparency protocol to operationalize this recommendation. And this will exactly define how supply chain sustainability and circularity of data is structured and exchanged. We need to work on that, really. There is much more work that we can do together, and as we and I stand here, my call is, you have a tool, we have a tool. The main thing is to act, maybe not on all together, but let's take step by step and with the efforts, but tackling all the areas, all the segments. This is the key to our common success. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Now I have the honor to introduce to you our president of the World Resources Forum Association, who is supporting us actually also since the beginning, Bruno Oberle. Bruno has explored and shaped the interface between environmental policy, economic development, and social equity from the perspective of the state regulator, as an entrepreneur, as a scientist, and a leading representative of non-governmental organization. He has worked on sectoral, national issues and the highest level of international policy making. So all these together, actually, he has a quite large background. He served previously as Director General of IUCN, as professor at EPFL, which is the scientific part for green economy and resource governance, Director of the Federal Office for the Environment, and represented Switzerland as State Secretary for the Environment in international institutions and negotiations. So please, Bruno, it's your floor.
Thank you so much. And happy to be here. It works. Happy to be here. Happy to see you here. Let's have a productive 2 days in person. I will start with a boring statement. The world is changing, everyone is saying. I will focus on 3 elements of that change. The first one we have seen at the very beginning, the planet. On this planet, today, lives 8.2 billion humans. 2015, the forecasted is 9.7 billion. It's impressive. I am probably among the eldest in this room. When I was in primary school, we were 3.7 billion on this planet. So during my life, the world population has more than doubled. And of course, the living standard has also increased. So this is a fundamental change that is silent going on. A second one is more the geopolitical that everyone is referring to. In very short terms, Asia is getting the center of the world, away from the Atlantic to Asia. China alone is the second biggest GDP of the world, the first trade nation of the world, has more patents, 4 times more patents per year than the US and Europe. So there is a new power bloc that is constituted. It was in this day in the newspaper with the Tianjin meeting of the security group. And then technology, of course. Technology is running very, very quickly. We invest a lot in science, and accordingly, we have more and more powerful tools, artificial intelligence, but much more than that. So the world is changing quickly. And some things are still the same. The first one, it is wealth is unevenly distributed, unfair distributed, among nations and inside nations. And this is growing. The concentration of wealth and production means in few hands, it's increasing. It is true that hundreds of millions of people were lifted out of poverty in the last couple of decades, but the distance between the wealthy people and the poor people has not decreased, has rather become bigger. And coming closer to our topic, what is not changed is to fuel our economies and our societies independently from the target we set. We need natural resources. We are taking from the crust of the planet that we're saying there, this larger and larger amount on humans is digging and taking out what we need to create our societies. It is also an historical process. Europe and the US, let's see the OECD world did these mainly in the 19th and in the 20th century. China, second half of 20th century, and beginning of this century. Between 2015 and 2018, China has produced and used the same amount of cement that the US has produced and used during all the 20th century. China is almost there, but now India and then Africa will come. So no doubt, we will need natural resources, more than we have used so far. In the last 50 years, we have triplicated the amount of natural resources that we use per year. And in the next 50 years, the forecast, it is at least a doubling again, in relative terms, a doubling of that amount. And you know that natural resources are not neutral in terms of impact on the planet. They have an impact on environmental issues. More than 50% of climate change is due to the extraction and the first step of refinement of natural resources. 90% of the biodiversity losses on the planet are related to natural resources, in particular organic natural resources. We have the other side of the coin. Extracting and producing causes human diseases, pollution, and through that, human diseases. And it creates economic growth. Not, as we can assume, in the place where we extract the natural resources, but where we use natural resources. So these are elements that are not changing. And these are among the things that we have to tackle if we want to create a better world. The consequences are, and recently, two additional topics are coming to the agendas. The first one is the scarcity of rare earths. What is a strange word, because the rare earths are, as you know, very frequently and practically everywhere. The fact is that only some economies has invested continuously in the last decades to be able to produce the technology, to use, refine, and make this usable. And the second one, it is maybe there are resources at other places, for example, on the seabed. So these are with plastic, of course, that was eloquently explained by Ambassador Wertli. Seabed mining and rare earth economy is high on the agenda. Another characteristic of the system we have now to use natural resources, and I'm looking here more at the concrete work, at the company work on the ground, the regulatory framework is fragmented, complicated, burdensome, extremely costly. So, overall, we need natural resources. It is only a fraction of our GDP, 1%, not more, to source our economies. But to produce these, to have these natural resources, we are producing a lot of problems in environment, in social, and in economic terms. The transaction cost, to say it with my half brain, that is an economist's brain, the transaction costs of natural resource use and management are simply far too high. And this makes clear, let's say, the eagerness that we are seeing in improving the governance system. The UN Secretary General panel that was introduced earlier. All nations, many nations, have created very quickly in the last couple of years strategic work group to reflect on the impact of natural resource supply to their economies and society. The private sector is working very strong together to improve at least the private part of the governance of natural resources, standards and similar. We will hear about here in the next days. What we need at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. We need granted access to natural resources. Nobody, no economy, no enterprise should fear to don't be able to get natural resources that they need. We need fair sharing of the benefit of the use of natural resources. And we need to do this inside the boundary of the planet. Access, benefit sharing in the planetary boundaries. This is the objective. How to get there is a much more complicated history. Of course, we probably need targets. In all other sectors, we have targets. 1 ton CO2, 0 loss biodiversity. In this specific sector, natural resources, we don't have targets. We don't have any clue how much copper, how much cement, or how much of the other material we should target as a target for the development of technology. We need, of course, to do this based on sound scientific data. So data-based target and transparency in monitoring what is going on in terms of regulation and in terms of using. We need, of course, a radical simplification of the system, and we need capacity building all over the world. We have, by far, not enough experts in this sector. It seems strange, but we have, by far, not enough experts in this sector. IRP, the International Resources Panel, has suggested several times in recent publication that we may need an international agency to support these dialogues and this development. And I personally, and the VRF, is strongly supporting this idea. All these will not come without serious discussion, without dialogue, and without compromise. And this is the sense of these conferences. Since the creation of the World Resources Forum, the mean is to serve dialogue, and in this sense, this conference, WRF 25, hope to be the place where exchanges can happen, and maybe one or the other good idea is produced to be offered to the international community. Thank you so much, and enjoy the next days.
Thank you very much, Bruno Oberle, for this welcome speech. If you sneak into the program, I think you will find a lot of interesting sessions who are addressing the issues Bruno just introduced. So I think, and I hope, they will find lots of solutions for it. Now I'm very excited to announce our keynote, our first keynote, from Blessing Hungwe. She's a prominent miner and advocate for women's empowerment in the artisanal and small-scale mining, as we call it, the ASM sector from Zimbabwe. As the Patron of the Zimbabwe Association of Women in Mining Associations, she has been instrumental in uniting various women's mining groups under one umbrella to amplify their collective voice and influence. Previously served as Vice Chairperson of the Zimbabwe Miners Federation and Secretary General for Southern African Development Community, SADC, region under the Association of Women in Mining in Africa. Currently, she serves as the Regional Knowledge Exchange Coordinator for Anglophone Africa in the World Bank's Development Exchange Program. So please, Blessing, it's your floor. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I think I've been given a simple task to talk about myself, my journey, and experience as an artisanal small-scale miner. So I grew up in a small town in Zimbabwe, where there's a lot of artisanal and small-scale mining activities. And my uncles were artisanal miners. So they would go underground and mine, and they'll bring out ores and crush the ores. So what I would do is take the residue from the mines and start panning it. So I would make money from that, from panning the residues that my uncles would have left. So that is how I grew up. But when I got married very early. Then, unfortunately, I got divorced, and I was stuck with 3 boys and did not know how to take them to school. I went back into artisanal mining full-time and started working as an artisanal gold miner. Let me go fast forward. I proudly stand here before you today, having tremendously managed to reinvest my earnings from gold mining to mechanize and grow my gold mine. Well, I raised all my boys, and my first son, I'm proud to say this, he's actually a mining engineer from the University of Johannesburg. And I've taken him to school with money from artisanal small-scale mining. Let me now talk about our organization, Zawima. I started as an association leader from my grassroots mining community as a chairperson, to the provincial, and to my country chairperson as the chairperson of the Association of Artisanal Small-Scale Mine. But when we went and formed Africa Women in Mining Association, I went back to my country and realized that we were too many groups, too many associations of artisanal small-scale mining. So I was very instrumental in bringing all the groups together and formed Zimbabwe Association of Women in Mining Associations. So this is all the associations having come together. So I'm also the Delvi Exchange, Knowledge Exchange Coordinator. This is a program funded by the World Bank. It's a knowledge exchange program for miners, by miners. So I coordinate Africa English. This also grew my confidence for transnational facilitation from this project. Okay, allow me now to define ASM prominence in local livelihoods, especially women. So millions of people in Africa are directly involved in artisanal small-scale mining. And women and girls in Africa are key actors in this sector. ASM means many different things to women. It's a source of income to feed families, especially now with the climate change, which has made agriculture unreliable due to frequent and severe droughts. ASM, artisanal small-scale mining, is not only about food for families, but also an opportunity to send children to school. Remember my story about my son, Panache? ASM can generate extra income required to shift from labor-intensive to mechanized ASM. It creates employment and spurs entrepreneurship. Thus, ASM presents an opportunity, not an easy one though, to grow wealth and escape poverty trap. Not all women in ASM communities are miners. Some are sponsors. They sponsor money in the ASM, and they get a share from what comes out. Some, they provide catering services, and they get a share from what comes out. Some also sell consumables and protective equipment, among others. The purpose of this keynote is to shine a light on the experience of women in artisanal small-scale mining and how they can lead in driving responsible mining. I think you're seeing a bit of slides that are coming out there that are just highlighting realities of artisanal small-scale mining. Let me go into the challenges that women face. I remember around 2022, when there was a lithium rush in my country. Well, when we were mining gold, personally, I would throw away lithium and thought it was junk and did not know that it was lithium. So no one knew the quality of the ores, the ore grades. So the middlemen took advantage of this and came and bought at a low price, and they'll make a killing in between. Also, the use of mercury. As you can see, that is mercury. Many artisanal small-scale miners use mercury with bare hands because there's no alternative, a working alternative that can be used. And for women, it's very, they can't really balance unpaid care work and livelihood activities they leave children, you have to go and work, you have to come back home, you have to look after the family. There's also lots of accidents in artisanal small-scale mining. So you end up taking care of the injured, some are left widows, and lots of inheritance issues on the artisanal small-scale mining sector. There's limited access to mining rights, to finance. I'll give an example of, in our country, we sell gold to the government. It's called Fidelity Printers. It offered women to come and get loans, but not many, not even 5 women could access the loans because of no security of tenure, no security to offer. So because of that, women do not have access. There are lots of mine disputes, lack of geological and metallurgical skills. So there's quite a lot that women face challenges in the artisanal and small-scale mining sector. Let me share how our organization, Zawima, is empowering women. So Zawima is empowering women through training and access to resource and advocacy. We are doing environmental safety and health trainings under the Delvi exchange that I was talking about. And we also managed to get funding of about 100,000 euros from the UK embassy. That has actually helped us to come together with professionals, technicians, to help us do things correctly. Allow me to highlight a few initiatives that women have done, especially from my organization. We have gone into rehabilitation of the environment. Many people, when they talk of artisanal small-scale miners, they think of damage to the environment, so many things going wrong. But we have been deliberately rehabilitating and repurposing land, planting avocado trees, going into vegetable growing as a way of rehabilitating. We've also been promoting a savings scheme and improved access to finance for women, coming together as a group of women, saving money, giving an opportunity to the other women to buy machinery and to mechanize and go in circles like that. Call to action. Allow me to reinforce the role of artisanal and small-scale mining as an important source of minerals and metals. So, with growing poverty, unemployment, and climate change, sustainable mining cannot afford to overlook artisanal small-scale mining. In particular, support women and girls to develop entrepreneurship within and outside artisanal and small-scale mining sector value chain. Access is key. Access to mining claims, access to finance, access to skills, access to equipment, and proper markets. Women should be supported with networking opportunities for solidarity, peer learning, and exchange. I hope you support artisanal small-scale mining. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe stay with me for a moment. Thank you very much. We are a little bit delayed, but we're in the academic quarter, but I think I still want to take the opportunity. If somebody has a question, I would take 1 or 2 questions. I think there should be people around with microphones, or maybe you can use your microphones actually on the table. So is there any questions for our keynote speaker? Yes, please.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I just came back from Zimbabwe on Saturday. I was in the beautiful Victoria Falls. Yes, I went for a conference there. During my PhD, I did research on female entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa, and part of what I realized was that women lacked networking opportunities, and that's what you just ended your presentation with. But my question is, with your association, what are some of the networking opportunities that you are exposing or bringing for using to empower women in your association? What are you doing about that? Is there any resources you are using? Because a lot of women entrepreneurs back in Africa, it's the networking opportunity they are lacking. And that is what is limiting them from, should I say, competing with their male counterpart. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that is where we really need support to network, to know what kind of networking we can do. But at the moment, we are actually using the platform for Delvi Exchange as one way to network, because it's got all the African women who are doing artisanal small-scale mining. So we share experiences, we share videos, we share what we're doing in our sites. So this is helping in the networking process. But although there is so much need of finding ways to network.
There's another question.
Blessing, thank you very, very much for that presentation and for giving some nuance to the conversation around ASM, because so often we get the demonization of ASM, which very much ignores the realities on the ground. So I represent ICMM, so 25 of the world's largest mining companies. And my question to you is hopefully quite simple. What can we do as the large-scale miners to support legitimate and responsible ASM miners around the world? Because we're all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there's a lot that you can do to support ASM as large-scale miners. Firstly, even by partnering in safety and health, training the proper mining methods. There's a lot that we can do together and change the ASM sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Blessing Hungwe. I think for me it's very important to have this keynote to go to the ground, to the source of our resources we are talking about, and also to make the connections of this individual, which are responsible also to getting resources to us and our high-level policies.
Thank you.
So thank you very much
Thank
again.
you.
Yeah. So now it's the honor to lead you over to the next keynote, which will be given by Jorge Laguna-Celis. Jorge is the director responsible for the United Nations Environment Program, One Planet Network. I think a few of you might know the network. He served previously as director of UNEP's policy-making organs, including the United Nations Environmental Assembly, and for the organization's engagement with civil society and business and industry organizations. Jorge brings 20 years of experience in intergovernmental and multi-stakeholder processes, global sustainable development policies, and sustainable development-related governments. So the floor is yours, Jorge. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting us today and for being part of the launching of this World Resources Forum. And from the opening statements, from the message that Mr. Oberle delivered, and also we heard the perspective from Switzerland and the UNECE, and also the very important grassroots voice, we take a message. And this is that we are in the middle of a decade for action. And you are the experts that are present here today, those that are delivering the solutions that are helping us identify the challenges and are helping guide governments. You are raising the voice and saying, without decisive action, global resource extraction could rise by 60% by 2060. And you have been at the forefront of supporting the International Resources Panel and this International Global Resources Outlook 2024, which is unambiguous about both the risk and the remedy. So what matters now, and this is the opportunity of the World Resources Forum, it is how do we scale solutions fast? And this is precisely why I believe and I am convinced that this decade is our window. Not only because the challenge is immense, but because the means to act are finally in our hands. We have unprecedented finance seeking sustainable assets that are delivering predictable returns. We are also at the forefront of seeking and identifying new ways on how we can catalyze human ingenuity, mobilize across industries and cities. We are seeing the emergence of artificial intelligence and the potential that it can have in scaling up circular solutions at a speed and a precision that we have never seen before. So the World Resources Forum that is opening today comes at a very pivotal time. It has identified a number of drivers, 6 to be precise, for systemic change. So my remarks today and the few minutes that I have ahead of me, I want to focus on 4 of these drivers. The first message and the first driver that I take home, it is this call for making sufficiency the new normal. In my own language, what this means is how can we design for enough and not for more. And let us think and pause for a moment a story about the city of Sao Paulo in Brazil. I don't know if any one of you is from Brazil. And if not, perhaps some of you have visited Brazil. But what's interesting about the city of Sao Paulo is that they decided to use the menu as a lever for change. What they did is that they introduced a new concept, at least for their own perspective, which is the meat-free Mondays across public schools. And that helped reshape demand at scale. Just think for a moment what it means: millions of meals, healthier diets, lower emissions, and a new normal for children and families. From the lens of sufficiency, that's a policy that edits choices upstream, not a campaign that leads downstream. The second concept that we are seeing, and many of you are currently reflecting, it is how can we design our cities so that we make sustainable choices the norm. And we don't make sustainability like a punishment, but something that we want to aspire to. And cities as Geneva or many other cities are buying into the concept of the 15-minute city. So what does it mean, urban planning that shortens distance, that helps us combine active mobility, infrastructure, teleworking incentives, reducing car dependency? All of these are lifestyle choices, and we have worked on them with a number of research partners, including from Chatham House. But the main message is the following. It is that we can cut the amount of resources that we are using, while at the same time providing better opportunities and conditions of living for all. And this is the type of paradigm that we have to move as we think about design for enough and not more. And some of the actions that I welcome from you today, and I think that we will have in these 2 wonderful days opportunities of discussing, are how can governments use public procurement and planning codes to edit high-impact options out and make low-impact options abundant. The second, and we've heard it and we will hear more about it, is how can we call on businesses to design offers around service and longevity. The second point, and the previous speaker, the executive head of the UN Economic Commission for Europe, spoke about it. It is to harness digitalization and artificial intelligence to scale up circular business models. The way I interpret this and my message as I take it home, it is how can we make the invisible flows visible and also valuable. Perhaps some of you are already working on the importance of digital product passports and digital product information systems. And this is an area that the One Planet Network, which is enabled by the United Nations Environment Programme and which I have the honor of representing, is developing and advancing with a number of global partners. For a moment, picture a producer of textiles in Dhaka, Bangladesh, that wants to participate in more sustainable supply chains. or even maybe doesn't want necessarily to participate, but it's constrained by international regulations to participate in more sustainable value chains. How can we help these types of entrepreneurs move from analog to digital? And our experience working with UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and other partners of our work on digital product information systems show us that small investments in readiness works at the company level and at the country level in the sector of textiles can help small and medium enterprises leap from paper trials to interoperable machine-readable data. And we have a great opportunity to discuss how can we invest in simple data architectures, shared taxonomies, and open connectors. And precisely recommendation 49 of the UNECE paves the way in this direction. Now pause for a minute and imagine a future in which artificial intelligence can help forecast secondary material supply, that can help us optimize reverse logistics and sort materials at industrial speed. And precisely the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and Google have been working on thinking how can artificial intelligence accelerate circularity across product design, operations, and infrastructure. So let us use this World Resources Forum to see how can we use these technologies to benefit those that are less advanced, to ensure that we leave no one behind and we take into consideration the needs of those small and medium enterprises, particularly in the global south, but also thinking how does it all help to reduce demand and to provide more sustainable living opportunities for all. And my main message in this regard, it is that digital product information system compounded with artificial intelligence does have the potential to reduce transaction costs, to shrink uncertainty, and unlock new revenue from reuse, refurbishment, sharing, and high-quality recycling. The third, in a sense, driver that I have been extremely impressed by, identified by this conference, is about measurement and the development of standards for circularity. And Mr. Oberle spoke about it, and I am sure that we will discuss a bit more about it. But we can have beautiful speeches and discourses about the circular economy and about the importance of making a transition to a more sustainable world if we have no way of comparing it, measuring it, and valuing it at the company level. The impact will remain limited. The impact will remain at the level of statements. And take just one example. A solar panel manufacturer that thought it was circular, and I can quote many. There's so many companies that I meet, but today I'll speak about a solar panel manufacturer I met. And this company thought and was saying, we're very circular. We are doing a bunch of recycling, and 75% of our panels by weight are being recovered. But the fact is that a deeper look into their value chain and their operations allow them to identify the real gap in their business model. And that is that the recycled component of the silicon that they were using was only about 10%, silicium, sorry. And you know, there's so many opportunities that we have in other type of industries to help them understand, to close the loop, to value the loop, and to identify opportunities by measuring what it matters in terms of recyclability and moving towards circularity. And the work that we have done in this regard with the World Business Council on Sustainable Development and a number of partners in developing the first global circularity protocol for business, it delivers a main message. And that is, if we want capital to flow, we must harmonize definitions and metrics for material inflows and outflows. And only that way we will be able to set targets that are science-based and that companies can heed and governments can adopt. And we're not far from that point. And we have to support 3 quick actions. 1, let us help companies advance measurements and standards for circularity that help them know better their operations. And sort of if you're researching and you're looking at applied opportunities of your research in whatever value chain you're working on. Start seeing how does this apply at the company level to deliver more circular returns. If you're looking, for example, at other types of solutions from the investment perspectives, help us advocate for putting a life cycle perspective at the investment level. The best way that we can do this, and we advocate for it in our work in UNEP, in the One Planet Network, it's from a procurement perspective. If we call on governments to embed life cycle considerations in the way they buy buildings, mobility solutions, and other services such as that they provide, a big change can come in creating and harnessing demand. Last but not least, it is to work with investors and identifying ways in which we can create metrics that also support these life cycle performance indicators. And this takes me to my last and concluding point, which is about mobilizing capital and scale and creating markets that reward circularity. And what we have learned in our work in this regard is that regenerative economics can become the low-cost option, but we just require to price them in the right way. And I have an example that I want to share with you in this regard from one of the largest, actually North American steel makers that has pivoted in its history from being one of the sort of most polluting industries in actually reducing the amount of intensity of pollution that they do by becoming the largest recycler of scrap metal. And this company is called Nucor, and it's an interesting case. But it's a two blend. First, it is by using a new technology to produce steel from scrap, and that allows us to scale up, and that had allowed this company to mine above ground and recovering metals that are already extracted and paid for. So the main messages here, it is that finance must reward circular inputs and value retention, and not just end-of-the-pipe fixes. Banks and international financial institutions also have to provide preferential terms, not only for recycled content, but also for social enterprises that are working at the mine level and are doing small-scale and artisanal mining. Procurers, and I already spoke quite a number of that because it's one of my favorite topics, how to work on procurement, can set minimum recycled content. And finally, policymakers can help us harmonize end-of-waste and recycled content definitions. In closing, we need to pivot from pilots to portfolios. We need to pivot from solutions to scaling up actions. And I believe that we already have a number of those solutions that are identified, and you are working behind these important solutions, both city by city, supply chain by supply chain, standard by standard. And the International Resources Panel, and I close by this, that's supported by UNEP and enabled by your knowledge, tells us that the steep and narrow path is still open, but time won't do the work for us. If we design for enough, if we digitalize what matters, if we measure what counts and mobilize capital towards value retention, we won't just reduce harm. We will create better economies that are more resilient, more fair, and more capable of meeting human needs within planetary boundaries, of course. And that's a decade of action that I think we're all believing and we're all committed today in this World Resources Forum. And we can, with our knowledge, with our intent, and with our capacity, turn inevitability into intentionally together. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you very much also for linking your speech to the drivers of change as we have presented for our conference, which I think is important for us also to present a comprehensive picture of this program. Now, are there any questions for Jorge? I would take one or two. Yes.
Reinhard Weissinger from University of Geneva. Would you say that your speech, let's say if you had given your speech a few years back, I would have fully understood and accepted and supported what you said. But now seeing what's happening in the United States and what the international implications that has, would you say that you would have to make a few maybe modifications or express more concerns about all these things you said, which definitely are correct in substance, but in terms of implementability as a political program, do you think this is still reflecting the current situation? Thank you.
That's a great question. And maybe on the one hand, because I'm an optimist at heart, and on the other one, because of the audience that we're talking to. But there is no point in setting aside the words that our friend Felix Wertli said at the beginning of this conference. And that is, there is a problem at the global level in terms of the governance of our resources management, in terms of the governance and agreements into the global challenges that we're facing that address pollution, climate, and biodiversity. There's no point in reiterating, you are all experts, we know the problems. But there's also solutions. And just to quote one example about why, in a way, I have certain optimism. And that is just the last example I gave, I put it at the end of this, my speech. That's about this company, Nucor. And I was looking at the valuation of the latest shareholder assets of a major American company, Berkshire Hathaway, represents the American style of investment. And they took a significant amount of interest in Nucor. And I thought, maybe it's because of the tariffs. Maybe it's because the tariffs are creating an opportunity for, getting more, home resales content. And then I started digging into the company, and I understood that companies, some call it now greenwashing, are still moving ahead because it makes sense, because it makes business sense, because there are sustainable returns. And the markets can price them adequately if we create the regulatory environment, and then we can see an upscale revolution. But the fact is that the regulation comes in many cases, as a hindrance. And the same thing happens in plastics, and I like to observe companies that are developing great solutions to help us transform the materials that we use. And the solutions are out there, and they're actually competitive, and they're actually scalable, and they're actually available. But the regulation is not always there to create that level playing field. And we hope that great topics such as the digital product passports and digital product information systems that are emerging don't get caught into these regulatory conundrums. And I would say that I am an optimist, a realist in a way, but I do think that there are causes to being upbeat if we implement these solutions at scale and the regulatory environment supports us.
Thank you very much, Jorge, again. Thank you very much. So now, the basis of this conference is and always has been the contribution of the scientists. And that's why I would like now to introduce our scientific chairs who will give you a word about the scientific sessions. And for this, our two scientific chairs, this is Sonia Valdivia. She is the scientific director at the World Resources Forum, has previously worked for quite some years at UNEP in Paris. On the other side, we have Patrick Wäger. He's heading the Technology and Society Lab of the Swiss Federal Institute for Material Science and Technology, which is our mother institution. We are a spin-off of EMPA. So I'm very honored to have you two now to give us an introduction into the scientific part of this conference.
Thank you, Matthias. A very warm welcome to all of you to the conference. And with this first slide, I would especially like, on behalf of the co-chairs of the scientific program, Patrick Wäger, myself, to thank all the scientific committee members that helped shaping during 1 year, more or less, process, the program that you have in your hands. Please stand up, the ones that are present today, and I would like that we acknowledge them. I know that you are there, don't be shy. And we would like to acknowledge them with a big applause. Please stand up. Thank you very much. And many others will be present during the next days, during the online sessions, also chairing the scientific part of the conference.
Yeah, so a warm welcome also from my side to WRF25. I wish us all an inspiring, insight and impactful conference, and I think with the keynotes we had, we already made a big first step in that direction. I would like to provide you with some key facts and figures. So we have in total had 235 abstracts submitted to the conference. If you look at the allocation to the resource hotspots of the conference, you see that the greatest share of the abstracts is about the extractive sector, followed by the consumer and industrial goods and the built environment. Yeah? We see also on the right figure that we have quite a big geographical diversity. So the abstracts come from 51 different countries. And what is very nice also is that the majority of contributions come from beyond of Europe. And I think this very well reflects the spirit and the character of the World Resources Forum. We see also, when we look at the contributions we got, that they are covering a broad range of cross-cutting topics, basically among the resource hotspots, the three ones on top, and the key drivers for change, which have already been mentioned now in the previous keynote. Which is nice. It's also about diversity. Again, no, we heard a lot about diversity this morning, and this is very helpful for good discussions, I think. And I would say also in line with the transformative claim and the scope of WRF25. Matthias, you mentioned it. It's new resource strategies for a fair and sustainable future, basically. We have a lot of contributions with inter and transdisciplinary character. This is very good, and yes, we can take note of it, of course, first of all. And what we also see is that life cycle thinking, socio-economic and ethical considerations are prominently addressed in our sessions. And last but not least, we also have case studies, experiences from industry and practice with a good number of contributions addressing those. So I think we have a very interesting program ahead of us, and I'm very much looking forward to your presentations, your sessions, and the discussions we will have.
Thank you. And with this, we kind of illustrate very briefly the scientific program. Today and tomorrow we will have 16 sessions. So they are answering some or discussing some of the topics that were addressed in the plenaries, in the plenary today, in the keynote, in this morning, and the questions that you raised as well. So be engaged, please. If you plan to attend these sessions, raise your questions, but also participate with your voting, because as in other versions of the conference, there will be an award tomorrow at the end of the conference, showcasing or presenting the 5 best presentations. So this will be based on criteria like clarity, engaging with the audience, and transformative potential of the contributions.
So we think it's also important to say that the sessions are not limited to the 2 days in Geneva, but we also have online sessions after the closing meeting then on Thursday and Friday. In total, we have 13, 7 on Thursday and 6 on Friday. So we invite you to have a closer look at the sessions, the program, and maybe join one of, or 2 or 3 or 4 of those sessions after the closing of the on-site presentation conference here in Geneva.
And best contributions or outstanding contributions will have the chance to be published in an edition, a special edition of the Global Sustainability Journal this year. Some of you are already in contact with us with the submission of papers. So also the conference continues with this publication. With this, thank you very much, and enjoy the conference.
Thank you very much, Sonia and Patrick. I hope you're now motivated with these welcome speeches, with the keynotes, and also the introduction to the scientific session. Also think of our first introduction with the musical introduction of diversity, enjoy each other. We are around 450 participants, so that's a lot of diversity from many different countries. You can use the Hova app also to connect to each other. So that's all open. And if you get tired of all these theoretical things, go outside. There's a playful corner which connects more our playful side with arts and also with sustainability. So you might have seen these artworks outside of the main hall. So again, enjoy the conference and welcome, and yeah, have fun. Thank you.